My body was falling, and the wind rushed past my ears. 17 stories high, enough height for me to think about a lot of things before I hit the ground. Ethan Johnson, 17 years old, an ordinary high schooler to the point of banality, chose the most extreme way to end my life. Bang! The intense pain lasted less than a second. Then my field of vision suddenly rose, like a camera being hoisted by a crane, looking down on the whole scene. I saw my twisted body, blood spreading across the concrete like spilled red ink. A crowd quickly gathered around, screams tearing through the afternoon quiet. Call an ambulance. It's no use, his brain is... Isn't that Ethan from Class 7 a senior year? My soul floated in the air as I watched this absurd scene. So there really is a soul after death. This was my first thought. Soon, the school leaders hurried over in a panic and covered my already meaningless body with a prepared white sheet. I saw homeroom teacher Mr. Wong's ashen face and the trembling hand of the dean as he wiped his sweat. They weren't sad for me. They were just afraid of taking responsibility. Police cars and ambulances arrived almost at the same time, and the medical staff took one look and shook their heads, giving up. The police started to put up a cordon and disperse the onlooking students. My gaze uncontrollably followed two familiar figures, Jake Davis and Emily Williams, who were whispering at the back of the crowd. Driven by some obsession, my soul drifted toward them. This idiot actually jumped. Jake had a cigarette in his mouth, his tone as casual as if discussing a soccer match. He was tall and handsome, his school jacket slung over his shoulders to reveal a name-brand t-shirt. Told you he was a coward. Couldn't take being messed with a few times. Emily frowned, her carefully groomed brows knitting. What rotten luck. Of all places he picked the school to jump from. Now my dad will definitely say this district isn't safe. She was the school's beauty queen, long hair flowing and skin pale. I had secretly liked her for 2 whole years. What are you worried about? Your dad's loaded. He can transfer you to a better school anytime. Jay put his arm around her waist. Besides, hasn't that kid always had a crush on you? He even stood up for you a few times. Emily snorted. Don't mention him. It's disgusting. Who asked him to meddle? With that shabby look of his, he thinks he can like me? Every time he helped me out, I felt mortified. Those little thugs giving you trouble. You could handle them yourself. But he had to butt in and play the hero. I felt a sting, though my soul shouldn't have sensation. Those moments I thought were hero saving the beauty were so disgraceful in her eyes. But now he's dead. Nobody will bother us anymore. Jake grinned wickedly and pinched Emily's cheek. Gross. So many people are watching. Emily coyly swatted his hand away, but didn't really move away. My soul trembled, anger and remorse flooding in like a tide. I had once thought Emily didn't know Jake was bullying me, or at least was being deceived by Jake. Now it seemed she had known all along, and might even have quietly encouraged it. 3 days later, my parents came back from working out of town to handle my funeral. Seeing their hair gone white overnight and their eyes dry from crying, my soul nearly shattered. I was their only child. They scrimped and saved to send me to school, and I repaid them in this way. The wake was held in our cramped living room. In the photo, I wore my school uniform with a blank expression. That was the ID photo. I didn't even have a decent picture of my life. Few people came to pay their respects, mostly neighbors and my parents' co-workers. Not until dusk did a thin figure appear at the doorway of the wake. She wore a school uniform faded from washing and held a cardboard box in her arms. It was Sophia Taylor, my desk mate. She stood before my memorial portrait, her shoulders trembling slightly. I thought she would light an incense stick like the others and leave, but instead she knelt on the meditation cushion and bowed deeply 3 times. Ethan, you idiot. Her voice choked. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you bear it all alone? I was stunned. In the memories from my previous life, Sophia was just a quiet, taciturn deskmate. Apart from necessary study discussions, we hardly spoke. She was always bent over books or writing code. I thought she didn't even notice I existed. Sophia opened the box. Inside were all the things I had left in the classroom. Several textbooks, a thermos, and a notebook I used to write poems. She carefully sorted through them, her movements as gentle as if handling a treasure. "I've been wanting to tell you, those prank videos Jake made about you, I saved them all, and the evidence of them beating you in the bathroom. I was planning to talk to you after school today and report them together." Her tears fell on my notebook. "Why couldn't you have waited just one more day?" My spirit trembled violently. It turned out the salvation I had been seeking was right beside me, and I had been blind to it, stubbornly chasing someone who never cared about me. A tidal wave of intense regret and unwillingness swept over me. If I could do it all again, if only. At that moment, a powerful suction suddenly pulled at my soul, and everything before my eyes began to warp and blur. "Ethan, stop sleeping. The opening ceremony is about to start." A familiar voice jolted me awake. I snapped my head up and found myself leaning on my desk. Saliva is still at the corner of my mouth. Sunlight streamed through the window onto the tabletop, casting a bright patch of light. I looked around. It was the familiar classroom, classmates gathered in twos and threes chatting. Standing in front of me, poking my arm with an exasperated look, was 17-year-old Sophia, wearing black-framed glasses, her hair tied in a simple ponytail, a few pimples on her face. "You stayed up late reading novels again last night, didn't you?" She handed me a tissue. "Wipe your mouth. Homeroom teacher will be here to lead us to the auditorium any minute." I took the tissue with trembling hands and looked to the other end of the classroom. Emily was surrounded by a few girls, laughing as she showed off her new phone. Jake and his cronies were leaning by the window, loudly talking about last night's basketball game. I looked down at my phone. Monday, September 1st, 2014, 7:45 am. I had been reborn, back to the first day of high school. I pinched my thigh hard. The pain was real and undeniable. At the podium, homeroom teacher Mr. Wong was reading out the new semester notices, and the chalk squeaked on the blackboard. Everything felt too real. It couldn't be a dream. Rebirth. This word I'd only seen in novels was actually happening to me. During the break, I rushed to the restroom and splashed cold water on my face. The reflection. Ear-length short hair, a slightly pale face, a crooked school uniform collar, was exactly an ordinary high school student. I took out my phone again. The date on it really was September 1st, 2014. "Ethan, are you in there?" Sophia's voice came from outside the door. "We have to change classrooms for the next class. Mr. Wong asked me to find you." Sophia. My heart suddenly sped up. In my past life, after I died, she was the only person who cried for me. I opened the door and saw Sophia with black-rimmed glasses standing in the corridor, sunlight through the window gilding her edges. She was holding 2 heavy textbooks in her arms, her face full of concern. "Are you okay? You look awful." She hesitated for a moment, offering a tissue. "Wipe your face, it's all wet." "Thank you." I took the tissue, my fingertips trembling slightly. In my past life, I almost ignored this deskmate, and now I wanted to hug her tight and tell her how sorry I was. "Are you okay?" Sophia looked a little uneasy under my steady gaze, the roots of her ears flushing slightly. I had a nightmare. I forced a smile. I dreamt I died, and then I saw some things. Sophia blinked. "Having a nightmare on the first day of school? You're under too much stress. Come on. Next period is chemistry lab. If we're late, Teacher Wong will nag us again." We walked across the noisy corridor, and my eyes couldn't help but follow Sophia's figure. She had a habit of walking with her head slightly bowed, shoulders a little hunched forward, as if always ready to dodge something. In my previous life, I had never noticed those details. In the chemistry lab, Sophia and I were paired by student number. In my previous life, I always found excuses to get close to Emily's group. Now I thought there was nothing better than doing experiments with Sophia. "You do the procedure. I'll record the data." Sophia carefully pushed the test tube toward me. "You're better at chemistry than I am." I was taken aback for a moment. "How did you know I'm good at chemistry?" Sophia's glasses had slipped down her nose. She pushed them up on the bridge. "You ranked 3rd in the class in chemistry on last semester's final exam, and I happened to see the grade report. I don't remember this at all. In my previous life, I only paid attention to Emily's grades and preferences, never noticing my own behavior, let alone caring about Sophia. Halfway through the experiment, the back door of the classroom was suddenly pushed open. Jake swaggered in with a few basketball team hangers on, even though they were 20 minutes late. Reporting, "Teacher, practice just ended," Jake said lazily, completely disregarding the young chemistry teacher. My fingers tightened around the test tube without me realizing it. It was him in my past life. He and his cronies cornered me in the bathroom, beat me, pressed my head into the toilet, burned my arm with a cigarette butt, and in the end posted a video of me begging for mercy to the whole school group. "Ethan," Sophia lightly tapped my elbow. "You added too much liquid." Only then did I notice my hand trembling. I had almost ruined the experiment. I took several deep breaths and forced myself to calm down. In this life, I will never make the same mistakes again. Well, if it isn't Ethan, Jake had somehow come up to our lab bench and looked down at us, partnering with four eyes. "Huh? No wonder you've been ignoring Emily lately." In my previous life, I'd probably be so nervous my palms would sweat, either meekly bowing my head or rashly snapping back and getting beaten. But now, I kept working on the experiment with a steady hand and, without looking up, said, "We're conducting an experiment. Please do not disturb." The entire lab fell silent instantly. Jake clearly hadn't expected me to respond like that. His expression darkened at once. "Ethan, have you been taking the wrong pills?" He snatched the test tube from my hand. "Is that how you talk to me?" "Jake," the chemistry teacher finally noticed the commotion. "Go back to your seat." Jake glared at me viciously, slammed the test tube down on the desk, and the liquid splashed on his Sophia's school uniform. Without looking back, he stalked off to an empty seat in the last row. "Are you okay?" I quickly used a tissue to wipe the chemical reagent off Sophia's clothes. "I'm fine." Sophia's voice trembled a little. "You shouldn't have provoked him." "It's all right," I said softly. "He's not worth being afraid of." Sophia looked up, her eyes wide behind her lenses. "You're really different today." How should I explain it? Say I died once and saw through these people? Say I finally understood who is truly worth cherishing? People grow up. I finally answered, handing her a clean test tube. "Shall we start over?" After class, Sophia and I walked side by side to the cafeteria. In my previous life, I would have been racking my brain for excuses to get close to Emily at this moment, but now I just wanted to learn more about the desk mate I had ignored for 2 years. "What do you like to eat?" I asked proactively. "My treat." Sophia looked at me in surprise. "What? Just thank you for helping me out today. It was clearly you who helped me out." Sophia mumbled softly, but still followed me into the cafeteria. We chose a corner table, away from where Jake and Emily usually sat. Sophia ordered scrambled eggs with tomatoes and rice, nibbling cautiously like a wary squirrel. "What do you usually do after school?" I tried to start a topic. "Read, sometimes write code." Sophia was a bit embarrassed. "I joined the school's programming club." "Programming?" I pretended to be very interested. "Can you teach me?" Sophia's chopsticks froze in midair. "You want to learn programming?" Sounds pretty interesting." That was the truth. In my previous life, I first encountered programming when I entered senior year, found it fascinating, but I had wasted too much time with my thoughts all on Emily. Sophia tilted her head to appraise me, as if gauging my sincerity. "The programming club meets every Wednesday afternoon. If you're really interested, you can come along." "Great." I smiled sincerely. This was the first real goal since my rebirth. To get close to Sophia, to understand her, and not repeat the mistakes of my past life. Just as we were having a pleasant conversation, a saccharine sweet voice came from behind. "Ethan." I turned around and saw Emily standing there, her long hair flowing, her school uniform carefully tailored to outline her graceful figure. In my past life, I would have felt my heart race and my words tumble out, but now I only felt a wave of physiological disgust. "Can you do me a favor?" Emily blinked her big eyes. "My locker key seems to be stuck." In my past life, I would have happily trotted after her and then made a fool of myself in front of everyone. Her key wasn't stuck at all. It was just a trap for Jake to have an excuse to mock me. Sorry, I'm eating. I refused calmly. You can ask the housemaster for help. Emily's smile froze on her face. She clearly hadn't expected me to refuse. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but I had already turned back and continued chatting with Sophia. Aren't you into her? Sophia asked quietly after Emily stormed off. That was before. I took a bite of rice. Now I find programming more interesting. Sophia snorted with a laugh. You're really a weirdo. Before the end of lunch break, I accompanied Sophia to the library. She pulled out a book titled Python Programming for Beginners and earnestly explained the basics to me. Sunlight streamed through the window onto her profile, revealing fine downy hairs, and I suddenly realized she was actually very cute. Not the ostentatious beauty of Emily, but a quiet, introverted kind of appeal. Did you understand? Sophia paused her explanation and looked at my distracted expression with puzzlement. Sorry, it's a bit complicated. I came back to myself. Could you go over the part about variables again? Sophia patiently repeated it. This time I was really listening, and I deliberately asked a few more in-depth questions. Her eyes grew brighter, and her explanation became increasingly engaged. The bell rang after school, and we packed our bags together. As we walked out the school gate, I saw Emily standing by the roadside, waving at me. I pretended not to see and hurried toward the bus stop. Emily is calling you, Sophia whispered. I heard. I kept walking. I don't want to deal with her. Sophia looked at me in surprise, but said nothing more. We boarded the bus together, and by coincidence, her stop was only 2 stops from mine. See you tomorrow. When getting off the bus, Sophia waved at me, her face showing a rare expression of ease. Back home, I immediately took out my notebook and began planning this life's path. Although I'm a high school student and don't know the exact future of the economy, I clearly remember a few major events. Next year, the school will organize a programming contest, and the year after that, the National Physics Competition's question directions. After finishing the plan, I turned on the computer and searched for basic programming tutorials. Since I decided to get closer to Sophia, I really had to immerse myself in what she liked. My phone suddenly buzzed. It was a message from Sophia. Found a book that's more suitable for beginners. I'll bring it for you to see tomorrow. Smiley face. I smiled and replied, Thank you. I look forward to learning from you. Outside the window, the sun was setting, the afterglow dyeing the entire sky red. The first day after my rebirth was coming to an end, and my life had finally set foot on the right track. The programming club's activity room on Wednesday afternoons was on the 5th floor of the lab building, a corner rarely visited by students. When I followed Sophia into the room, 7 or 8 students were already sitting at computers, and the air was filled with a quiet concentration. This is our club's new member, Ethan. Sophia introduced me to the others, her voice a few decibels louder than usual, yet still carrying a faint, barely noticeable tremor. A few students glanced up at me, nodded as a greeting, then immediately buried themselves in their code again. Only one student wearing thick glasses, later I learned his name was Brian, came up enthusiastically. Finally, a new member. He shook my hand vigorously. I'm the club's vice president, mainly in charge of hardware. Has Sophia told you what project we've been working on recently? I shook my head and looked at Sophia. She pressed her lips into a smile and led me to a computer in the corner. We're building a campus weather forecasting system. She opened a complex program interface. By collecting data from 5 weather stations on campus, we predict the probability of rain on the sports field for the next 2 hours to help PE classes adjust their venues. I stared in surprise at the code and charts flickering on the screen. This far exceeded my expectations of a high school student's programming ability. Most of the core code was written by Sophia. Brian leaned in, his tone full of admiration. She won second prize in last year's Provincial Youth Informatics Contest. Sophia's face flushed instantly, her fingers nervously twisting together. I just tweaked some existing algorithms. I watched Sophia's profile. Sunlight streamed through the window, catching her fine eyelashes and casting tiny shadows on her cheek. How blind must I have been in my past life to overlook someone who shines like this? Can you teach me to write my first line of code? I asked sincerely. Sophia's eyes lit up. She pulled over a chair for me to sit and began patiently explaining the most basic syntax. Her explanation was clear and orderly, nothing like the stammering she usually did when answering questions in class. Time flew by, and by the time the club activity ended, I could already write a simple piece of Python code that printed a smiley face on the screen. You learn really fast. While packing her bag, Sophia said to me in a low voice, "You're much better than I was back then," because the teacher taught well. I replied with a smile, seeing her ears redden again. We walked out of the lab building side by side as the setting sun stretched our shadows long. Most of the students had already left the campus. Only a few track team members were still training on the field. "Let me walk you home," I suggested. "It's on my way anyway." Sophia was about to answer when a sharp female voice came from behind the teaching building. "Let go of me." "Jake, what are you doing?" Sophia and I stopped at the same time. That was Emily's voice. "Should we go check it out?" Sophia asked, looking worriedly toward where the voice came from. I tightened the strap on my backpack. In my previous life, I would have rushed over without hesitation to play the hero and save the beauty, then get beaten black and blue by Jake and his cronies, while Emily would stand by with cold eyes and later scold me for meddling. "Let's watch first." I pulled Sophia behind a big tree and quietly peeked out to observe. In the vacant lot behind the teaching building, Jake was cornering Emily against the wall. One hand braced against the wall, trapping Emily in his arm, the other cheekily tilted up her chin. A button at the collar of Emily's school uniform had been torn open, revealing her delicate collarbone. "What? Playing innocent?" Jake's voice was full of mockery. "The whole school knows what you are. Weren't you partying all night at a KTV with that rich kid from class 3 last week? That was a class reunion." Emily's voice quivered with tears. "Let go of me, or I'll call for help. Call then. See who comes to save you." Jake laughed even more brazenly. "Where are all your simp followers? Especially that Ethan. Doesn't he follow you around like a shadow? All the time?" Hearing my name, my body tensed instinctively. Sophia gently gripped my wrist. The warmth of her touch calmed me. "Ethan," Emily scoffed. Even in this situation, she didn't forget to belittle me. "That coward? Last time you hit him twice, and he peed his pants." "Disgusting." Jake laughed out loud, his fingers sliding from Emily's cheek down to her neck. "So come on, just obey me. I'm miles better than those losers." Emily began to truly struggle, tears welling up. "Get off. You bastard." I stood frozen in place. Memories from my past life surged like a tide. When Jake pinned me to the bathroom floor and beat me, Emily stood by smirking. When I mustered the courage to confess to her, she took a photo of my love letter and posted it to her moments to mock me. When I was forced to take a leave from school because of bullying, she and Jake walked hand in hand past my building. "Should we do something?" Sophia asked uneasily, her fingers trembling slightly. I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone. The best thing to do is tell a teacher. Just as I was about to dial, Jake suddenly let go of Emily. He took a step back, his expression turning grotesquely fierce. "Fine, since you're shameless. Tomorrow I'll make the whole school see what you're really like." After saying that, he kicked the wall hard and walked away. Emily slid down the wall to the floor, hugging her knees and sobbing. "Now you can come over," I told Sophia, stepping out from behind the tree. Emily heard the footsteps and jerked her head up. When she saw it was me, her expression shifted from terror to anger. "Ethan, you were just standing there watching." "Yeah," I admitted calmly. You piece of trash." Emily staggered to her feet, tears smudging her carefully applied makeup. "You see a girl being bullied, and you do nothing. Are you even a man?" Sophia moved forward to steady her, but I gently held her back. I looked straight into Emily's angry eyes. "I remember at the KTV last month when Jake was groping that girl from an ex-class. You said, 'She dresses so slutty, she deserves to be touched,' didn't you?" Emily's face went ashen in an instant. Teach, that's different. How is it different? I asked. Because this time it's your turn? Emily's lips trembled, and she suddenly raised her hand as if to slap me. I easily caught her wrist. Save it. Instead of taking it out on me, you'd better think about how to deal with Jake. His dad is the biggest property developer around here. Even the principal has to give him some face. Emily froze mid-motion. What does Jake's family do? The Davis Real Estate Group. Their assets must be at least several $billions. I deliberately used a casual tone. You didn't know? A subtle change crossed Emily's face. Her anger was gradually replaced by a calculating look. She slowly withdrew her hand, smoothed her messy hair and school uniform. I have to go home. Her voice suddenly calmed, and she even gave me a forced smile. Just now. I'm sorry, I got too excited. Thank you for telling me this, Ethan. After saying that, she hurried off in the same direction Jake had gone. Sophia watched Emily's retreating figure in confusion. Why did she suddenly? Because she hooked a bigger fish. I sneered, turned to Sophia. Come on, I'll walk you home. The next morning, an eerie atmosphere hung over the classroom. When I walked in, several classmates were huddled together whispering. They immediately broke apart and shot strange looks at me when they saw me. Sophia was already in her seat. When she saw me, she lowered her voice. Something's happened. Yesterday, Emily and Jake's thing was photographed. What? I pretended to be surprised. Sophia took out her phone and showed me a blurry photo from the school's anonymous forum. In the image, Jake had Emily pinned against a wall, the angle cropped so it looked like they were kissing. The headline read, "The campus belle finally taken down by the school bully." Sophia said worriedly. Emily came straight here, crying to complain to the office. As she spoke, the classroom door was flung open. Emily walked in with swollen, red eyes, followed by homeroom teacher Mr. Wong and an impatient-looking Jake. Quiet. Mr. Wong knocked on the podium. Regarding the false photos on the forum, the school will handle this seriously. Until then, I don't want to hear any rumors being spread, understood? The students answered thinly, their gazes constantly shifting between Emily and Jake. Emily bent over her desk sobbing, shoulders shaking. Her acting was nothing short of first-rate. Jake swaggered over to the back row, deliberately bumping my desk as he passed. What are you looking at, loser? I didn't respond, just watched him calmly. That attitude clearly infuriated him, but with the teacher present, he could only shoot me a hateful glare and keep walking toward the back. When the bell rang, Emily was immediately surrounded by a few girls offering comfort. I packed my books, and from the corner of my eye, I saw her wiping her tears while sneaking a glance at Jake in the back row. Ethan, Sophia gently tapped my arm. Look. I followed her gaze and saw Jake getting up and walking toward Emily. The girls watching immediately parted a path, their faces a mixture of fear and excitement. Hey, Jake rudely poked Emily's shoulder. I didn't do the forum thing, but he lowered his voice and said a few words, and Emily's crying gradually stopped. Then a shocking scene unfolded. Emily looked up, gave Jake a tearful smile, and gently nodded. Jake grinned smugly and, in front of the whole class, took Emily's hand and exaggeratedly kissed the back of it. Wow, a few boys jeered. Emily shyly lowered her head, but didn't pull her hand back. The whole class erupted. Only Sophia and I silently watched this farce. This change is way too fast, right? During lunch break, Sophia whispered incredulously. She was so afraid of Jake just yesterday. Because Jake's family is wealthy and powerful. I calmly ate my meal. Emily's father is a minor government official. What he values most are connections and resources. Once he learned Jake's background, being bullied actually became an honor. Sophia frowned. This is just too reality. I gave a bitter smile. Some people are just like that. By the way, are you free this weekend? I want to learn more about programming. Can we go to the library to study together? Sophia's eyes lit up, and she immediately forgot the previous topic. Sure, the Central Library is least crowded on Saturday mornings. We can. Watching Sophia excitedly plan our weekend study session, A warm feeling surged through me. This is what genuine emotion feels like, unmixed with any calculation or self-interest. In my previous life, I was blinded by Emily's glamorous appearance and ignored the true treasure beside me. After school, I saw Emily and Jake walking side by side toward the parking lot, Jake's arm possessively draped around her waist. As they passed by me, Emily shot me a triumphant look, as if flaunting that she'd landed a golden son-in-law. I replied with a meaning-laden smile. Let her think she's the winner. She will soon understand that someone like Jake will never truly treat anyone sincerely. As for me, I've already found something far more valuable than revenge. Days flowed by like water, and in the blink of an eye it was already the first semester of senior year. Since my rebirth, I have deliberately kept my distance from Jake and Emily, putting all my energy into studying and programming. Sophia became my closest companion. We were almost inseparable. After the Friday programming club meeting, Sophia and I walked side by side through the campus. The late autumn wind stirred up golden ginkgo leaves, which danced gracefully in the air. Are you really going to join me for next month's provincial programming competition? Sophia pushed up her glasses, her tone tinged with uncertainty. You could actually team up with Brian. He has more experience. I just want to be in a group with you, I said firmly, taking the heavy reference book from her arms. We work best together, don't we? Sophia's face warmed slightly as she looked down at the floor. How about you come to my place this weekend to practice? My parents are on a business trip this week. We can stay up late debugging the code. Sure. I was about to agree when a commotion came from the direction of the academic building. A few students ran out from the direction of the infirmary in a fluster, excitement of gossip on their faces. I vaguely heard the words Emily, pregnant, and Jake. Sophia heard it too and glanced at me with concern. Since that time Jake had publicly pursued Emily, the two of them had indeed gotten together, becoming the most conspicuous couple on campus. Shall we go see? Sophia asked softly. I shook my head. It's none of our business. But fate seemed determined to be against me. Just as we reached the school gate, a black sedan screeched to a halt in front of us. The car door flung open. Emily rushed out in tears, followed by an angry-looking middle-aged man. None other than her father, Mr. Williams. It's him. Emily pointed at me and screamed, Ethan, he's the one who got me pregnant. I froze in place, my mind blank. The absurd accusation came out of nowhere. Even Sophia took a step back in shock. Mr. Williams rushed up to me in a few strides and grabbed my collar. You little bastard! What did you do to my daughter? Mr. Williams, please calm down. I tried to stay composed. I have nothing to do with Emily. We haven't even exchanged more than a few words in the past 6 months. Nonsense! Mr. Williams roared, spittle flying onto my face. Emily says it's your kid. A crowd of students quickly gathered to watch. Some are already taking photos and videos. I looked at Emily. She was hiding behind her father, her eyes flickering, unable to meet mine. Emily. I called her name calmly. Tell me honestly, whose child is this? Emily's lips trembled, tears streaming down. It's yours. Last week you even asked me to go to a motel. The lie was so outrageous that even the students watching made hissing sounds. Everyone knew that for the past 6 months, Emily and Jake had been inseparable, while Sophia and I spent almost every day in the library or the computer lab. Mr. Williams, your daughter is lying. Sophia suddenly stepped forward, her voice soft but steady. Ethan has spent all his spare time with me these past 6 months. We could provide the library entry logs and the programming club sign-in sheets. Shut up. 4 eyes. Emily interrupted her hysterically. Who do you think you are? How dare you speak for him? Mr. Williams looked at his daughter in doubt, then at Sophia and me. Just then Jake swaggered over with a cigarette in his mouth, followed by a few hangers-on. Oh, quite lively here, Jake asked lazily, his gaze lingering on Emily's protruding school uniform for a second. That's when I noticed her abdomen did have a slight bulge. Seeing Jake, Emily's face went pale in an instant, and she instinctively hid behind her father's legs. So you're Jake, Mr. Williams released me and turned to the real culprit, My daughter is pregnant, and she says it's your seed. Jake's smile froze on his face, his cigarette falling to the ground. What kind of joke is this? Who are you kidding? Mr. Williams roared. Emily hasn't had her period for 3 months. The infirmary confirmed this morning that she's pregnant. The students watching erupted, conversation exploding instantly. Jake's face turned extremely ugly. He grabbed Emily roughly. What the hell are you doing? Didn't you say you were taking the pill? Emily cried even harder. I forgot. You little bastard. How dare you touch my daughter? Mr. Williams exploded with rage and swung a fist at Jake. Jake nimbly dodged and shoved Mr. Williams with the back of his hand. The 53-year-old Mr. Williams staggered a few steps, his foot slipped, and the back of his head struck the sharp corner of the campus iron fence hard. Time seemed to stop for a second. Then blood gushed out from the back of Mr. Williams' head like a turned-on faucet, quickly staining his suit collar red. His eyes bulged wide, his lips twitched a few times, and then his whole body went limp. Dad! Emily screamed as she lunged forward. Jake stood frozen, his face ashen, lips trembling. I didn't mean to. He didn't steady himself. Some students had already called 911 and 110. I pulled Sophia back to a safe distance, watching how this farce would end. The ambulance arrived quickly, but after checking, the medics only shook their heads and covered Mr. Williams with a white sheet. The police car arrived soon after. As Jake was handcuffed and led into the squad car, he kept shouting, "My dad is Mr. Davis of Davis Real Estate. How dare you arrest me?" Emily was helped into another police car by a female officer. Before getting in, she glanced back at me, her eyes full of despair and hatred, as if it were all my fault. The crowd gradually dispersed, leaving only a shocking pool of blood on the ground. Sophia gripped my arm tightly, trembling all over. "It's okay now," I soothed her softly. "Let's go home." In the days that followed, the campus buzzed with discussion about the homicide. Jake was charged with negligent homicide. The Davis family used their connections to try every means to lessen the sentence. Emily was forced to take a leave of absence. It was said the Davis family demanded she carry the baby to be DNA tested, and if it was Jake's child, the Davis family would raise it. Sophia and I buried ourselves in preparing for programming contests and the provincial mock exams, deliberately avoiding the controversy. Occasionally we heard classmates gossip that Emily was being kept under house arrest at a suburban villa owned by the DeVises, with Jake's mother posting people there every day to watch over her and ensure the fetus was healthy. I heard Jake might get less than 3 years because he's a minor and it was accidental. Brian told us during programming club activities. His dad paid a huge sum to settle, and the other relatives of the Williams family all took hush money. Sophia frowned. What about Emily? Who knows? Brian shrugged. Once the baby is born, she'll probably be driven out of the Davis household. Jake's mom hates her. She thinks Emily is the one who got her son jailed. I silently typed my code, feeling little satisfaction. The people who wronged me in my past life did get their comeuppance, but watching a life be destroyed like that was still heart-rending. In the blink of an eye, it was winter break, and the provincial programming competition took place as scheduled. Sophia and I won first prize for our campus weather forecasting system and were recommended to participate in the National Youth Science and Technology Innovation Competition. On the podium, Sophia wore a simple white shirt and jeans, smiling shyly and sincerely. When the judges announced our award, she hugged me excitedly and whispered in my ear, "Thank you, Ethan. If it weren't for you, I would never have had the courage to stand on this stage." I hugged her back and smelled the faint scent of shampoo in her hair. "You gave me the chance to be reborn." Sophia thought I was only talking about winning the award and playfully punched me. Only I knew the true meaning of that sentence. After the new year, the second semester of senior year began, and the college entrance exam entered its final sprint. The campus chatter about Jake and Emily gradually quieted. Everyone was busy fighting for their futures. One day in March, homeroom teacher Mr. Wong announced that Jake had been sentenced to 2 years in prison, suspended for 3 years, and had already been released to go home. The whole class was stunned, but no one dared openly question judicial injustice. Davis family's power was indeed deeply rooted locally. As for Emily, Mr. Wong pushed up his glasses, his tone complicated. She gave birth to a baby boy last month, and DNA testing confirmed he is Jake's child. The Davis family has already taken custody of the child, and Emily will not be returning to school to continue her studies. The classroom fell silent. I looked toward Emily's old seat. Her desk still bore the celebrity sticker she liked, now covered with a thin layer of dust. On the way home from school, Sophia suddenly asked me, "Where do you think Emily would be right now?" I shook my head. "I don't know, and I don't care. Everyone has to be responsible for their own choices." Sophia nodded thoughtfully, then squeezed my hand. "Ethan, promise me, no matter what happens, we'll be okay." "I promise," I answered solemnly, our fingers interlaced. The college entrance exam arrived on schedule and ended just as quickly. When the bell rang for the submission of the last paper, Sophia and I exchanged a relieved smile. On the day the results were posted, we agreed to check them in the school's computer lab. Sophia was so nervous her fingers trembled. She entered her admission number wrong several times. "Let me," I said, taking the mouse and entering her exam number first. The screen flashed and the scores popped up. Chinese 138, Math 150, English 145, Science Composite 293, total 726. "My God!" Sophia covered her mouth, tears welling up. "This is really my score." "Of course." I hugged her excitedly. "You're amazing. Just pick any top university." When it was my turn to check my scores, my fingers trembled uncontrollably. The page refreshed. Chinese 132, Math 148, English 142, Science Comprehensive 285, total 707. We can apply to the same university." Sophia jumped up and hugged me, crying and laughing. In the end, we were all admitted to the top university's computer science department. On the day we received the acceptance letters, Sophia's parents specially invited me to their home for dinner. Sophia's home was small but cozy, and the table was filled with dishes I loved. Mr. Taylor wasn't talkative. He kept serving me food. Mrs. Taylor, on the other hand, chattered on, reminding us of things to watch out for in college. "Ethan," Mr. Taylor said, unusually opening his mouth after the meal, "Sophia has been shy since she was little and didn't have many friends. Thank you for taking care of her this past year." "Dad," Sophia protested, her face flushed. "I don't need anyone to take care of me. Uncle, it's I who should thank Sophia." I said sincerely, without her I wouldn't have achieved what I have today. Mrs. Taylor looked at us with a smile, her eyes full of affection. "As long as you two are doing well, we're relieved." When we left Sophia's house, it was already late. The summer night sky was especially bright, the stars scattered like countless seeds of hope. "Ethan," at the intersection, Sophia suddenly called after me. "Actually, I've been wanting to ask you a question." "What?" "On the first day of school, you said you had a nightmare, dreaming you were dead." Sophia looked up at me, moonlight scattering a silver sheen in her eyes. "That dream, what was it like, really?" I was silent for a moment, then smiled and gently ruffled her hair. "It was just a nightmare. What matters is I woke up and I met you." Sophia seemed like she wanted to say something, but in the end she just stood on tiptoe and lightly kissed my cheek. "Good night, Ethan. See you tomorrow." Watching her run down the hallway, I touched the spot she'd kissed and felt warmth fill my heart. The tragedy of my past life had been completely overturned, and my story with Sophia was only just beginning.